saying congratulations on this brand new album. I've had a chance to sit down and take a listen, and it's absolutely fantastic. So congratulations.
Hey, thank you very much. I sincerely appreciate that.
So, mate, tell us a little bit about this album. Did you have specific goals in mind when you went into this album that you guys wanted to achieve?
No, nothing specifically like it in the front of our minds or anything. I think we just we knew what we liked with Lesions. We knew what we thought worked with Lesions of a Different Kind, our first album, and we kind of wanted to just go into the next one with all of those things in mind and just kind of double and triple down on everything that worked for us before. And, the goal the whole time has just been to be the best death metal band we can be and to write shit that's just like 100% death metal all the time, and while still catchy and hook forward and memorable. And I think that's what we were setting out to achieve.
Yeah, and I understand that the pandemic and the lockdowns and everything kind of gave you guys a little bit more of a chance to concentrate on the writing. Tell us a little bit about that process.
Yeah, sure. So when we got signed to Prosthetic back in, it was probably like November, December of 2019, we didn't really have a lot of time to finish the first album. We had a little over half of it written, maybe about half, and we kind of had to just rush into the studio and get everything done as quickly as possible so that we could have it released on time. But with this album, the one that we got coming out, we had a lot more time. There really wasn't a set or a specific time frame in mind in which we had to have the record out by, so we really got to luxuriate in the songwriting process and spend a lot more time mulling over ideas and riffs and bouncing choruses off each other and stuff like that. So, I think the pandemic specifically contributed to that, just in the sense that, we didn't really have a lot of shows going on, but ultimately, like, we're a band that never really stops writing, so we've just been at it nonstop since the very beginning.
Did that kind of also give you a chance to relax more with it? Like you said, you didn't have a set date or anything needed to be done by. So did that mean that you could relax a little bit more and enjoy the writing process?
Yeah, I'd say we definitely enjoyed it. I wouldn't say we relaxed, we didn't want to just kind of like take it easy with writing the album. We were still very like driven and focused and just about our business, so to speak, but it was definitely more comfortable. We definitely weren't like up against the clock nearly as much as we were with the first album.
Yeah. I noticed in the press release in your quotes it said that every song needed to have a big chorus. Was that something that you sat down and talked about as a band, about having that big chorus?
As a band, like, we never really have like big discussions about future plans or what our goals are in mind for songs or albums or anything like that. I think things just kind of happen naturally for us, and we try not to force anything too much. So I think we were all just really satisfied with songs on Lesions, like the title track and Lore of the Grave and Acidic Twilight Visions, that just were very centered around their choruses. They were very hook driven, and I think in the back of our minds going into this album, we just knew that we wanted to write more stuff like that, but make it bigger, make it more of a centerpiece than it was before.
And what kind of things were inspiring the songs lyrically? Was there anything out there that kept on coming back to you guys as you were putting the lyrics together?
There isn't really a grand philosophy when it comes to like our lyric writing. Kyle writes the vast majority of the lyrics, and Kyle is one of our guitar players, and I tend to read the stuff that he sends me, and if I have any notes or ideas or input, then I'll let him know before we actually start tracking stuff. But yeah, I think we tried to just follow somewhat traditional like death metal compendium of subject matters. Everything's largely focused around gore and death and decay and the macabre and stuff like that. So I think we kind of wanted to just keep it in that wheelhouse for this next record.
Yeah. Now, talking about the past, a lot of people are comparing this album to the work of bands like Autopsy, Cannibal Corpse. First of all, how does that make you feel? Because you would have grown up listening to those bands. And secondly, does that make you excited that people are comparing it to the greats like that, or does it make you slightly nervous?
I love it. You know, we all of us in the band. That's our shit. Like we love Cannibal Corpse, Autopsy, Morbid Angel, Bulk, or like the classics, the greats. Like those are our favorite bands, and death metal or otherwise. You know, that's the stuff that I think we all listen to the most. And you know, we have tons of love and appreciation and fondness for more contemporary and newer bands. Like we listen to new stuff all the time. But when we set out to do this band, and when we started, that was the stuff that we all bonded over, all the classics, and I think that stuff just kind of consciously or not worms its way into our songwriting process, because those are the bands and their albums are the stuff that we look up to. So it's an honor to be placed alongside those bands in any capacity.
Yeah, I said in my review that there's a very much an old school death metal sound on this album, but there feels like a modern twist to it as well. Do you think that just happens because they are the bands that that you guys grew up listening to?
Yeah, you know, I think we just draw a lot of inspiration from bands like that, and you know, we don't sit down at practice or whatever and say, okay, let's write a Cannibal Corpse song, let's write an Autopsy song. You know, I just think we listen to that stuff all the time, and so it's kind of hard not to have elements of that style, of that world of bands seep into our writing a little bit. But at the same time, you know, we're just trying to be Undeath. You know, we're not trying to be a clone of any of these bands. We're trying to take inspiration from the past and from the bands that we admire, while still adding our own spin and our own touch to it.
Yeah. Now, let's talk about the recording of the album. A lot of bands here in Australia have found that the pandemic has given them a lot of writing time, but then when it's become time to head into the studio, it's been difficult because of, I think a lot of our studios were locked down for a long period of time, and then there was a time when there was only allowed to be one band member in there with a producer at a time. Was there any restrictions on you guys when you had to record, and if so, what kind of problems did that cause?
Oh, dude, I mean, we leading up to the recording itself, there was this little dramatic moment where Jared, one of our guitar players, kind of got like a false positive test for COVID, and the studio that we were going to record at in Philadelphia, they had like a very strict policy in terms of, you know, everybody had to pass the PCR test a couple days before heading down there, and masks had to be worn in the studio at all times. So that kind of really threw a wrench in the works for us. But it turned out to be a false positive, because he tested negative for COVID again on the same test, or same kind of test, like 3 days later. So there was definitely a moment of uncertainty where we were thinking, you know, shit, are we able to record this album now, or we have to wait like months or something like that until the studio has time freed up again? But everything worked out fine, and then honestly, like, after that, the only real thing that reminded me that there was a pandemic going on while we were recording was just the fact that we had to wear masks in the studio at all times.
Yeah. What led to the decision to travel to Philadelphia to record? Was there something about that studio that made you guys want to work there?
Yeah, so Scoops, he's a good friend of ours, and he is just a really talented engineer and mixer, and he recorded Legions for us, and we really liked the engineering that he did on that record. He's just a super easy and low-key guy to get along with, and we knew that we wanted to have him on board again for this record, and he just kind of happened to be in Philly, so we just went wherever he was, you know?
Awesome. And the other thing I love about this album as well, and I'm looking at it right now, is the artwork. Tell us a little bit about the artwork and how that came about.
Sure, yeah, that was Matt. Matt, our drummer, does all of our album covers. He's done pretty much he's literally done every cover that we've had since the beginning of the band. You know, we just love his style, and he's a super intricate and like detail-oriented artist and painter, and we just we knew that we wanted to have him go even bigger and go even crazier on this cover. So, we didn't really give him any guidelines. We just kind of made sure he had the lyrics for the album in front of him, so he could kind of draw inspiration from that, and he just rolled with it. And the result is what we came up with.
Well, it looks absolutely amazing, and I've got to ask, where to now for the band? What's the restrictions there at the moment for you guys? Are you able to get out and do shows? Because bands here in Australia at the moment, we're in this kind of weird holding pattern where the restrictions are being lifted, but there's such restrictions on crowds that it's not worth a band doing a show at the moment. What's the restrictions like there at the moment, and are you guys able to do shows soon?
Yeah, so we're kind of in a weird space right now in the U.S. We have been for quite some time, but the way that things have been going, it's kind of ebbing and flowing in a way. We'll have 3 or 4 or 5 good months where cases are declining and infection rates are declining, and states start lifting restrictions and bands are able to tour and play shows again. But then, we just saw over the past holiday, in the winter, the Omicron variant was just going crazy, and infection rates were spiking. Everybody I knew got it, and shows were getting canceled left and right, and tours were getting postponed. So it's really up in the air. You don't really know where or how stable things are going to be really any given month. But right now, things kind of seem to be at a lull again, and I hope, fingers crossed, it stays like that for a long time. We do have shows planned. We've got about a week or so of shows planned in March. We've got a big tour getting announced pretty soon that it's going to take us all over the country, and that's going to be in pretty much the entire month of May and into June. So hopefully things stay stable enough that we can do those shows, and I'm just hoping for the best.
How excited are you about being able to head out there and do shows again, and especially doing tracks from the new album?
Oh, I can't wait. For me, the music is obviously important, but the live show for me personally is just what it's all about. That's what I love doing. That's why I have been in bands for so long. It's just for the opportunity to play shows and to meet people and travel, and I'm stoked. I think all the new stuff is going to translate really well in a live setting, and I'm just really, really excited for people to hear it.
Awesome. And what's the ultimate plan? Because you've got a great record label behind you now. Your music's being released worldwide. I know from the listeners from our show, a lot of guys are loving you. Is there any chance that you might end up touring internationally over the next few years as well, if everything opens back up?
Oh, totally. That's 100% the plan. Things are stable enough in the U.S. that we can tour here for the most part, but touring internationally at the moment is such it's so uncertain.
Yeah.
We had some tentative plans to, at the very least, try to make it to Europe and the UK this year, but the way things are going, we just don't know if it's going to be safe enough for us to go over there. I don't want to tour over there and get stuck because one of us gets COVID and they won't let us back. So it's a whole rigmarole trying to tour internationally. But I assure you, that is something that we talk about all the time, and we would love to get down to Australia at some point. I don't know when it's going to be, but I would love to do it soon.
Awesome. Well, for now, what would you like to say to everybody here in Australia before they sit down and take a listen to this brand new brilliant album?
To the people of Australia, I'll say keep producing sick metal bands and sick hardcore bands, because there's tons of great bands from your neck of the woods. We listen to that Faceless Burial band all the time. You guys are killing it down there. Keep doing your thing, and hopefully we'll see you very soon.
Definitely. Well, mate,